Welcome to Life, Laughter, Divorce, episode 58. I am your host, Leanne Linsky.
And I'm the boyfriend.
Welcome back to another wonderful week of divorce. While you're out there tuning in, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe, unless, of course, you're in your car.
And if you're in your car, I'm gonna agree with her. I'm not gonna argue with you this time, but I think there may be a way to use Bluetooth and voice.
Mr. Techie.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, if you figure that out, boyfriend, you can do a tutorial next week.
I will.
And otherwise, just be safe, both hands on the wheel. And if you're at a desktop somewhere safe, at home, curled up in your pajamas on the couch, whatever it may be, rate, review, and subscribe there. And check out the website, lifelaughterdivorce.com, and our retail shop. Yes.
And I'd like to say thanks for everyone who's been very active on our social media this week, answering the question of the week.
Which was, what crazy lesson did you learn from your divorce? And that we had some really good answers. We did. Which I don't have in front of me at the moment. So the boyfriend's looking at me like, so where are the answers? Hang on a minute. Tap dance for a moment, boyfriend, while I grab my phone.
That's even funnier.
If anybody's ever seen the boyfriend dance. Because I have not. So, oh yes, we're just a barrel of laughs this week. So, what crazy lesson did you learn from your divorce? So, thanks to everybody who responded. Modern split. Always have access to cash. Good point. Whether or not you get divorced, always have access to the cash. Hey, and Kenny Hurrah, trust your instincts. That's a great one. Why don't we trust our instincts more? Divorce go-to girl. Hey, not to get my wedding date tattooed on myself. Yeah, that's a very good lesson to learn. And also Natalie 9085, breaking the vow was better than making the vow. Yeah, if you're getting out of a bad situation, that is a good one. Good point, Natalie. And Nancy Cooney, what? One crazy lesson, always forgive. Is that crazy enough? I think so, because a lot of times we beat ourselves up.
Yeah.
A lot. And I think forgiving ourselves is a really good one.
Well, thank you very much for responding to the social media Instagram question of the week. We'll have another one this week. We
will. I don't know what it is yet, but we're going to put it out there. So you just have to check out the social media and find out. And if you're not already following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you're going to want to do that. And the new one, drum roll, please. Pinterest. Because if your life wasn't active enough on social media, you need to be on there more often. Pinning away, not pining away, but pinning away with pins and all this good stuff we're doing on Pinterest. So slowly but surely, we're adding fun things on Pinterest. So find us there at Life, Laughter, Divorce and follow us. Repin, pin away. Pin away. The boyfriend's looking at me like I have no idea because the boyfriend is still not on any social media platform whatsoever.
And he's okay with that.
Yeah. I kind of want to trade places for a week. Social media is exhausting. Can I just say that out loud?
You just did.
Okay. Well, I did. Don't edit that out. Hey, this week we want to talk about, drum roll, please.
No, we've already done the drum roll.
Divorce. There's a surprise. We're going to talk about divorce. But oftentimes with divorce, before, after, in relationships in general, I feel like there's a lot of lessons to be learned.
Really?
Yeah. And I know we talked about the crazy question of the week, or the question of the week about what crazy lesson did you learn from your divorce? But now I'm wondering, what lessons do we learn from each of our relationships? Because I think, like, sometimes for me, I feel like I've taken enough time in between to really assess the situation, reevaluate maybe the person that I picked and why I picked that person, or my actions itself or behaviors within a relationship.
I think that's typically what happens, though. You look back at a relationship and you try to basically reevaluate everything, trying to figure out what went wrong, what you did right. But you go to events, you go to things that happen or things that you did and how you could have done them differently, and hopefully to try to make that relationship work, which may not always be what
you think it was.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I think we've talked to a lot of people who, and therapists and stuff like that. So, we can always go to outside support and get an objective view on that. But even then, sometimes I don't think it's so obvious as to what happened. And that's why I've personally found this week's guest so fascinating to talk to, because this is actually quite common, but I don't think that it's something we learn about, and that's dating or marrying a narcissist. And that's not something any of us really, you don't go take a class on it or anything.
Well, that's like something you hear, you read about.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's a narcissist, or they read about someone marrying a narcissist, but it never happens to me.
Right.
It never happens to my friends.
Right. And the term is thrown out loosely. So you say it or we say it, but do we really know what that means? And do we really know what it means to know a narcissist or to be in a relationship of any sort with a narcissist? So this week was really, really cool talking with our guest. And I guess I should probably introduce her now. What do you think, boyfriend?
I think you should.
Okay. So this week's guest is Tracy Malone. And Tracy was a victim of narcissistic abuse and has decided to educate the world on the red flags and signs of abuse. She started a YouTube channel that has reached over 350,000 people all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. Her website, narcissistabusesupport.com, has quickly earned ratings of being in the top 50 narcissist abuse websites. She now coaches victims of abuse, hosts live support groups, and her Facebook group has almost 4,500 members from all over the world. Upon learning about narcissists, Tracy figured out why she was a target and why her divorce was called by the judge in her case as, quote, the most tortured divorce in her town's history, end quote. She will share with us some of her tips that she has learned to help you prepare for the battle. Tracy is currently writing a book on divorcing a narcissist with money and his family. This was not a battle she was prepared for, yet she would like to help you prepare and learn from her lessons. And one of Tracy's favorite sayings is, screw the lemonade, I'm making a difference. So I would like you to meet Ms. Tracy Malone without further ado. Tracy, welcome to Life, Lafter, Divorce podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you today. I have so many questions for you. Tracy, well, why don't we start with getting to know you first? I know you've been divorced, right?
Yes, I've been divorced twice.
Twice? Oh, we are sisters. So where to start? So two of them, your first divorce, how old were you?
Gosh, I was probably, I don't know. It was probably close to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
No, that can't be right. Sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, because then you don't.
I was in my 30s.
Okay.
I'd been married to my son's father there for about 10 years, and he just wasn't the one. And I realize now that he sort of like changed to be with me, and then changed back to himself. Like, he didn't own jeans or shorts, and I taught him, and then he had friends and he was going out. But, shortly, a few years later, he just became a recluse again, and I was going out alone. So he wasn't a bad person. He just wasn't right.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I understand that. That happens. So how long was it between your first and second marriage?
Not very long. I was actually working at a very big company in Connecticut, and I was going through my divorce and met my soon-to-be ex-husband working there. And I wasn't looking for love, but he was sort of helping me through all the stuff I was going through as a friend. And he was very nice, and we started dating. And I think, well, the divorce probably took not quite a year. We were married 6 months after the divorce.
Wow, that is fast.
And, it was whirlwind. It was
Yeah.
such a whirlwind that I now know is called love bombing. And it wasn't just, I was in a very vulnerable place, of course, but it wasn't just like the 12 dozen roses he would send, or, just whining and dining me and taking me places and buying me things that I didn't want, but the constant attention. And now I also, as I know that is love bombing, he was also now love bombing my child. He had never had a child, and my son was like his new child. And he spent $2,000 on a Halloween party for an 8-year-old.
What?
Yeah. And we were like, this is crazy. This is crazy. But it was all an attempt to hook me by showing, look, I love your son. He's my son, So that was just, in the end, a form of abuse. But so he was very wealthy. Had a very wealthy family, and it was an interesting ride.
Okay. Well, yeah. Crazy. Well, yeah. So a lot of people aren't, we've all, I think, heard the term narcissist, right? But I don't know that everybody's familiar with it. And so what you just said was it, you were telling about him giving you a lot of extravagant gifts and things you didn't necessarily want, but showering you with gifts and attention and constant. And then you mentioned that it's a form of abuse. And to some people, they may I'll take that kind of abuse. So I don't know that everybody sees it as abuse. Can you kind of give us a better idea of how that is?
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly didn't think it was abuse when I was living in it. I thought that it was all very kind, and he was showing in the way he knew how much he loved me by, all this attention. And of course, I'm vulnerable coming out of a divorce and single mother, and life is just turned around. And here's this person just wanting to spend every moment with me. And that was his MO. That was the kind of way that he knew how to love because of his parents. So I had to learn to accept that was what it was. And it always felt kind of achy. But in the narcissistic world that I am now sort of an expert, I tell people I have a PhD in narcissism. So a narcissist they rush into relationships very, very fast. That is just part of the whole pattern of all narcissists. And the love bombing is to just not give you a chance to really understand what's happening, or to sit back and go, wait a second. If they're constantly showering you with attention and gifts, if they can, that is just their way of luring you in. It's like, here you go, little girl, first one's free. And they're hooking you in. So love bombing is a red flag to somebody that is dating someone. It is a tactic that narcissists very often deploy.
Is that because I know a little bit about this, probably not to the degree exactly that you do, but they do this, from what I understand, because if they keep you shiny keys and keeping your attention on all these positive things and gifts and this extreme overwhelm, you don't have time to really think about it. You're just caught up in the excitement.
Mm-hmm. You're swept off your feet. Got it.
Right.
Just like the exact thing that you would imagine. You're just it's so fast, and you're just wow. And then it instantly declares you soulmate. And
Right.
that's a pretty much part of the path and the things that they do. And
Right.
that should be a red flag.
And that's another thing that you just said as a keyword to me is soulmate. And can you tell us a little bit of why? Not just because, like, I wouldn't think of somebody who just buys me gifts and takes me out to dinner as my soulmate, but what else is it that they're doing that word comes to mind?
Well, for one thing, they're telling you. So they like instantly proclaim that. They talk about how important it is and how nobody else in their life has ever been like you. Everyone else was crazy, but you're so much better. So they're kind of elevating you and showing you that you are the best thing in their life. And they are communicating with you. They are being open and honest and transparent, so you think, but it's all part of this con to capture. They call us the new supply.
Mm-hmm.
That's another word we use.
Kind of like they're a parasite.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's exactly what they do. I've had a similar experience. This wasn't an ex-husband or anything, but yeah. And it's very overwhelming and very fast. When this happened to you, did you have friends say questioning it?
You know, he was so charming. And the place where we worked, we were so compatible before we knew each other. And I had a candy bowl on my desk, and I bought like $70 worth of candy for the floor every week. And I would have like, the CEO likes this and this. So I'd have this like variety of candy always. And he was on the other side of the building. And again, I didn't know him at first. He had a snack room. Like his entire room was like giant things of, cheese puffs and granola bars and beer. And so he was supplying like that end of the building, and I'm supplying. So everyone was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so perfect. And he was charming. Everyone loved him. And he would hold the door for me and be so proper and show everyone how much he loved me. And so everyone that knew him already thought it was perfect. I think he even won over all my friends. The only one that didn't like him was my mother.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What was it about him she didn't like?
I think she was jealous of his money.
Mm-hmm.
Yet at the same time, okay, phew, I don't have to take care of that daughter. It was like, good, you have her in a way, but at the same time, just not really liking him.
Do you think did she pick up on any of his weird, things, or did she?
Well,
did she say
out,
she was seeing through him?
Actually, as it turns out, she's passed away 2 years now. She was the narcissist that basically raised me, obviously, but that is why I am attracted to narcissists, and I am hooked by narcissists because I am technically people pleaser / codependent. And when you're raised by a narcissist, like a mother or a father, the children can either become narcissist, and that's how most of them are sort of born. Well, one theory anyway. And then the other opposite is you become the codependent, that you are always there to nurture everybody and make sure nobody gets upset. And you're the person that puts everything together. And those are the types of people you can be. So my mother was a narcissist. I think she saw in him herself and his abusive behaviors. And wait a second, I'm going to lose control of what I've had control of for, her whole life. That's why I don't think she liked him.
Okay, this just took a turn. So before him, did you know that your mother was a narcissist?
No, I knew that we didn't have a normal family, and I know that my two sisters are not mentally healthy, to say the least. So I knew that we were kind of messed up, but like not the normal family where you'd have Thanksgiving dinner. I don't think I've had Thanksgiving dinner in, 50 years. So that's kind of weird. We just didn't like do family things.
Oh.
So I didn't know. I knew she was demanding. I knew that she yelled a lot and was crazy when we were younger, but I didn't even know what a narcissist was.
Okay. So many questions on this now. So, okay. So I guess we should go back to your husband and we're going to come back. We're going to come back to mom.
That might be episode 2.
So going back to your husband. So, okay. So 6 months it was that you were dating and love bombing and then you were married. So 6 months after your divorce.
Yeah.
So you were divorced, and 6 months later you're married to this new guy. And then when did his behavior change from this love bombing phase?
We were living in Connecticut, and he left the job that we were at and got a job here in Colorado. I didn't even know where Colorado was. I'm an East Coast girl. So we moved here, and I think that's when it really changed for him. He only had a few friends in Connecticut, but he had none here. He lost 3 jobs, and he missed the New York City life. He missed the things he used to get to do with his family. They're very wealthy and would do all these, unbelievable dinners, unbelievable things, meet with famous people, and just hobnob with the rich and famous. And people here in Colorado, if you wear makeup, you're obviously from one of the other coasts. So he didn't like that. He wanted that society life back. And he got a job back there.
So he went back to New York.
Yes, he actually did go back to New York. And this was, he had been my son's father for 10 of his 18 years at that point. And it was just 3 months before my son was going to go to college and graduate. And so I was staying back in Colorado, finish school, and then I was going there. And I would go back and forth to visit my husband like every 2 weeks, and everything was fine. And they all came, his mother, his father, his sister, my husband, my dad, all came to Colorado for the graduation. And they went home on a Monday. I got a call on Wednesday, and I was flying to New York to buy a house on Saturday. And move there. So on that call on Wednesday, he told me he wanted a divorce.
Whoa. So that was completely out of the blue. You didn't see it coming, or were there?
We had picked the whole time he had been here for the graduation weekend. We would all sit around and pick out houses that he and I were going to go look at, Saturday and Sunday. It was that we never even had fights. So it was just completely out of the blue.
Huh. Okay. So that's a shocker. So there were no signs. So in the 10 years you were together 10 years?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
10 years you were together. Did he continue love bombing you and doing all of those things?
He was, this is, to me, it was, it became a way of life. We went on, $150,000 Christmas vacations with his family. Here we'll go to a store for a pair of shoes. He would buy 10. It was like no other husband in the world goes and picks out 10 pairs of shoes and throws them in the cart and says, you're buying them, you're getting them. It was over generous, and it was constant. And we loved to cook together. We went out taking photographs. The people thought we were like the happiest couple they've ever met. And in public, he showed that. And I now know that his quiet, moody, other behavior when no one was around was the real him. And that he only turned that charm on when other people were there. But he would put his arm around my son in front of everybody. Look, my pal. But he actually, when we moved to Colorado, he started treating my son in a completely different way and militarizing and telling me I wasn't, being strong enough with him. And he just changed and he needed to get back out there.
Okay. So when you guys moved to Colorado, how soon did you move to Colorado after you were married?
About a year.
Okay. And then things started to change. So on the outside, it still looked great.
Mm-hmm.
But on the inside, he became stricter. How was he with you?
He cared less about what I did. He used to look, I make websites. He used to look at all the websites and care. And, he just didn't really seem to want to look at anything or care about what I wanted to do. But again, he worked all week long. He was tired. He commuted, so there were excuses that, I just like, all right, so we're going to be the couple that sits home and watches TV all day on Saturday. That's what it was becoming. When in the beginning he would like hunt out that there was a new, museum exhibit here and there, and let's go here. This is the best burger in New York. He was always planning things, and then he just kind of stopped.
Okay. So he kept like it on the surface to the other people, and then at home he wasn't giving you the attention. He wasn't like the love bombing stopped on the inside.
Exactly. Except if there were lots of people around, he would definitely be showing much more affection. And, he always just obscenely spent on me, which he actually knew upset me a lot. I just didn't feel comfortable. And he would do it, and I couldn't do anything about it, which I know everybody's going to be sitting there saying, quit your whining. I'm not. I lived a really, really good life. I can't complain. It's once the divorce happened that I can complain.
Got it. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to take 1 second. I'm going to turn the video off because every now and then it will cut out. And I think it's because the video is on.
Okay.
So if you want to turn yours off, you can.
Okay.
Is that okay? Are you comfortable
Sure.
with that?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally. Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Your picture's so cute. So
thank you.
Okay. So now you're saying you can complain after your divorce. So even though his behavior changed while you were still married, you were still reasonably happy with him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was, I never thought we would get a divorce.
Right.
I was doing everything, which that's always been my personality. He had never lived out of his parents' house when I married him. And he didn't know how to write bills, write a check, remember that it's garbage day. So I pretty much did everything, taxes and, I did stuff.
So you took care of a lot of things for him in ways that he couldn't. Well,
right.
Okay. So you go through this graduation ceremony, and then he leaves on a Monday with his family, and he calls you on a Wednesday and asks for a divorce.
Yep.
And your mind is blown?
Mind is blown. And, we had just sold our house that week right before the graduation. So, it was just like, where am I going to go now? What do you mean?
Oh.
Just shock. And I did end up going to Connecticut that weekend, and he was so cold. He wasn't like the person I knew or the person I had made love to the weekend before. He was just this distant shell. And sadly, I knew that his parents, since he'd been there for a few months, had totally gotten to him. And this was their doing for sure.
And was it?
Yeah. They are, his mother is a queen of narcissists. I again did not know this. I was just told by the judge during my divorce after 7 trials that this was the worst divorce that had ever come across his bench in 25 years.
You're kidding me.
That's what the judge said. And I didn't know why. I just sat there going, but why? Why are they acting like this? They accused me of things and tried to say that I forged the prenup. And, each one of them, he quit his $300,000 job just so he didn't have to pay me. And my attorney bill was over $100,000.
So, whoa. How long did your divorce take?
Over a year.
Over a year. And the judge said this was the worst he'd seen.
Ever.
So, was he the one who told you you're dealing with narcissists?
Nope, still didn't know it. I'll actually be divorced from him next month, 5 years. So since that divorce, and this is the sad part for everyone to know, we are vulnerable after we go through divorce. And there I was, now I'm in an apartment. I'm here. And at the time, the story in my head was, he took me here and he left me here because I didn't have $30,000 to move back to the East Coast. So I used that like in my head over and over. He left us here. He left us here. But once we, here I was in this apartment and, starting my new life, and some friends introduced me to a man who had just recently been through a divorce, and he was their friend. So we started dating, and we dated for 2 years, and he is the reason that I learned about what a narcissist is.
Oh no, another one?
He was like a horrific person. And again, it's if I look back, it is the exact same pattern, except for this guy didn't buy anything, or but the love bombing was there, and the instant soulmates and the promises and the future casting and promises of fidelity. I just kept saying, but why do you say that? Like every time that we are exclusive, I'm like, do you doubt that I am? And he'd be, oh, no, I just want to just make you reassured. And of course, the story is, as they do go, I discovered in December of our second year there that he had been sleeping with someone I knew for 6 months. And
whoa.
Yeah, so I said, I'm out of here. But 2 months later, I was like going to church a lot, and I should just forgive him because those friends that introduced me were having a birthday party in 2 weeks. And, we shouldn't be weird. You've got a new girlfriend, get on with life. But I just wanted to get that I'm sorry, or I forgive you out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to his house unannounced. That's true. Don't tell anybody. But that's what he wrote in the police report, unannounced. And his son let me in. We talked for a while, and then Dad came home and called me to the garage to talk. And I'm explaining that I'm there to forgive him, but he was like, I didn't understand what baiting was at that time, but it was baiting. And he was just like getting madder and calling me crazy. And I'm like, why am I crazy? I'm here to forgive you. What are you talking about? Well, he ended up, the new girlfriend was in his car. He didn't let her in the house at that point. And he pointed her out to me. So I said, well, she's coming to the party. I might as well meet her. So I go walking over there, and he blocks me and starts screaming and calling me crazy and making just like a crazy man. I'm like, what are you doing? And he called the police and had me arrested.
Oh.
That day in jail, 24 hours, I just sat there like crying and going, what happened? I don't understand.
Right.
I didn't do anything. But he apparently walked into his garage with a tape recorder. Who does that? And recorded the conversation, and thus was debating to turn me angry when I was sitting there trying to forgive him and I was crying. So he turned it till I sort of fought back to defend myself, and he had recorded it all and he submitted it. So they added 2 more charges. Actually, I already had 3. I had trespassing, domestic violence, and menacing, trespassing. Yeah. So those were the 3. And after his recording hit the police, they added a 4th charge, a class 2 misdemeanor that said that I intended to harm him with my car. So that was shocking. But I went and listened to the recording from the lawyer's office, and it wasn't real. It was edited. I'm like, where's the part about, the door number 2 girl, the girl from Christmas I learned about? Where's the part about your ex-wife and your son who just tried to commit suicide? We were talking about all these things, but they weren't in this recording. So I had it analyzed at 3 different labs, and everybody could pinpoint exactly where he cut it, but the police wouldn't listen. So I was in jail and had to do domestic violence courses and be on probation for 1.5 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That's ridiculous. That's really rough. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
I know. And I'm sitting here and I'm calmly telling you this. It's been 2 years since this happened.
Yeah.
And when I got out of jail, a friend said to me, he's gaslighting you. And
yeah,
I didn't know what that meant. So I looked it up, and that one comment, what has totally changed my life now.
Right. So for our listeners, gaslighting is when this person takes and turns everything around to make you think you're crazy. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And to make everybody else think you're the crazy one.
Exactly. So, yeah, gaslighting is a very insidious form of abuse, emotional and mental, just really confusing somebody to the point of they don't understand reality. And so that was only one of his ploys, now that I know them all. But
there were more?
Oh, no, that was that's the only last narcissist I had.
But what were his other ploys? What else did he do?
Well, just absolutely having no empathy or anything about arresting me or, doing all the things that he had done during our relationship, which was ghosting. I used to call it the silent treatment. And he would just tell me that he needed, time to be with his kid or something like that. But what narcissists do is they use people as a supply, and everybody can have a different supply that they need. So they're kind of hunting out like actual animals in the safari, looking for the weakest link that has something they need. That girl from December, she was a mediator, and he was having problems with his ex-wife. So he was using her for legal advice and sex. And then the girl that was in the car that last day, she's actually from Australia. And I did not know it at the time of the arrest, but I did learn it a few months later when she called me from Australia. And I said, there's a restraining order. I can't talk to you. But she got the restraining order lifted and assured me, that he had broken up with her and she wasn't going to be talking to him. And we started Skyping, and it turns out they had been dating for 2 years of my 2.5.
What?
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
I babysat for his 16-year-old son that last year. I went back afterwards and looked at my calendar. 40 days. So he would get his schedule from work and say, I'm going here, I'm going there. Can you watch him for this many days? And I'd say, sure, a week at a time, sure. And I had to take care. I took care of his son all that time. And he was actually having her in a hotel.
Wow. So this conversation you had with her on Skype you just must have fell off your chair.
Yeah. It gets more like twisted, but in like the most magical way. Because I'd actually suspected her because she would like, do all this stuff on Facebook and be like liking all her stuff. And then if I commented, like I actually showed him one day, we're like laying in bed and I went, look, she'd make her stop. And I'm like, if I comment, watch right now, it'll take 2 seconds and she'll answer it. And he's like, she's a crazy psycho from Australia. I don't even know her.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but that's okay because I was the crazy ex. He was telling her that.
Right.
But her and I ended up being like, we used each other to heal and we became very close. And she's an empath and a psychic and she would do my readings and we just started chatting once a week. So that summer she ended up spending 3 months at my house.
Really?
Yes. So that's like the weird part is now we're best friends. And she keeps coming over here. She's been back every summer since, and she's just made plans to get here for this summer. And this past fall, her and I went to Italy together, her from Australia, me from here, for 2 weeks to see her son get married and tour Italy.
Holy cow. Okay, so this just took a crazy turn. I'm using crazy as the crazy term. No, but that is magical. And this isn't the first time I've actually heard of like women talking, in these love triangles, if you will, right? And then they end up being friends. But in these circumstances, like these are such extreme circumstances in which you guys cross paths. Mm-hmm. So where was it exactly? Who told you about narcissism?
So after the jail and that girl asking me about the gaslighting, telling me he's gaslighting and go look it up.
Mm-hmm. And this is a girl from Australia.
No, this is just a friend here.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I just started looking it up. And of course I went to YouTube and started watching a lot of YouTubers and probably now, remember, I had just been arrested. I was told that if I went into a restaurant and he was there, even if I didn't see him, he could call the police and I would go to jail. So the judge said, don't go to the movies for the next 6 months because if you're in the movie and he walks in, he could send you to jail.
Oh.
So I lived in fear and I just sat home and I hyper learned and I started reading books and I watched YouTubes endlessly.
Yep.
And then at one point I said, I could make a video. My story's a little unusual, the whole arrest, the double marriage, the weird guy, And so I started talking and making YouTubes. And now I've reached about 350,000 people. And I told the whole story about the arrest. I've made about 10 videos with the girl from Australia when she was here that first summer. We made lots of videos together. And some other big YouTubers interviewed us together when they found out, oh my God, you're kidding. You dated the same guy at the same time and now you're sitting next to each other.
Yeah. That's extreme.
Yeah. But it's weird because we're very different looking people. But our physiques are very similar. And when she got here, we had the same bathing suit. And
did he buy it for each of you?
No.
Okay.
No. But,
wow. That's kind of random.
Totally. And then like, she comes in and she'd been traveling for, a day and a half. And I'm like, would you like a glass of wine? And I get her a glass of wine in my polka dot wine glasses.
Mm-hmm.
She has the polka dot wine glasses in Australia.
What?
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I mean, how many wine glasses are there?
And the same bathing suit.
And the same art.
And he wasn't involved in the buying or purchasing of any of these things.
No.
Yeah, that is strange.
I mean, really, just everything was so like, like, like we were the same person. Again, the codependent, people pleasing, really, spiritual, empathic, and we're exactly the same person. And, she just has a better accent than I do.
Wow. So
Yeah.
when you started learning about the narcissist behavior and everything, like I had kind of mentioned, I've gone through a relationship with someone like this, and it is devastating to think that everything that you had encountered wasn't real, because they don't have mirror neurons. Like, they can't feel compassion. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, she was pretty shaken the day of the arrest because she didn't know what was going on in the garage. She was like,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
6 minutes, and they pulled in the driveway, and my car was there, and he said, "Stay in the car, I'll go find out." And she didn't know what was going on. So then when he called the police, and the police came, and she had to give statements, and and the officer said, "Welcome to America," because this is what we do. We arrest people.
Oh.
And yeah, so she was freaked out. And of course, she then had all these questions like, "Wait, you told me you hadn't seen her in 2 years, and did you really sleep with that other girl in December?" And he had to come clean about all of this.
Yeah.
And now she's still on vacation there and had 2 more weeks. And of course, he convinced her it was only once. And, he hadn't seen me in 2 years, all these lies. And, I have like 600 texts from, even after I found out about the other girl. So it was a lie, but she had to stay there. And she was very upset because, first of all, the son that I had taken care of was in the house while there's sirens and lights and all that stuff. And, they came in and he's like, "What's going on?" And the father said, "Tracy tried to kill me." And the girl went, "What? What are you talking about?" And then after the kid wasn't there, she was like, "Why did you say that to your son? He's very close to her, and why would you lie?" And he's like, she said, "Don't you feel bad that she's going to jail?" And he said, "No, I don't. She deserves it." And he just like, she was like, I never saw anyone with no empathy before. And there it was, that moment.
Is that, yeah, I bet. Is that when she realized what she was dealing with?
Not till he did the same thing to her, not the arrest, but not till he did that. Because within an hour, he was charming her and making up and, love bombing her.
Well, so he didn't have her arrested, but he did similar stuff where he just shut down.
Yeah. They had been communicating and dating, and she'd been here like 4 times at that time for a month. And then he texted her and said that he met someone else. Actually, he had bought concert tickets here in Colorado for the summer. That's why she had that ticket. And he said, "I know you really want to go see the Milk Carton Kids, but, if you come to America, you can't stay here. I've got a new girlfriend. You're no longer needed." But that's what he said.
What?
Mm-hmm. So she wanted to kill herself. She had applied for a green card. She was moving here and packed up her apartments. It's in storage. She was staying with her dad until, she left for America. And that just blew her away.
Yeah.
So she was down until one day she woke up and something told her to call me.
Huh. So here the patterns, right? There's patterns in how they drop people at your most vulnerable moment. Like, you've given up your friends and your family and your support group.
Mm-hmm.
You've moved to a different place or are about to move to a different place, and you've sold your existing place.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Have nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
They tell everybody around you you're crazy.
Yep.
And they just shut down on you.
Totally. In fact, the really, really sad part, and there's more, people can listen to me on YouTube. You know, with my ex-husband, first of all, you know, his family was so well off, and they just, you know, took this case to levels of ridiculous, and it got really ugly. But for 10 years of my son's 18, as I said, they were his grandparents. They, you know, taught him how to ride on mower, and, you know, took us on vacation and spent a lot of time with us. From the day of that phone call, all three of them never talked. All four of them never talked to my son again. He was their grandchild. He was, you know, he had been told that they would pay for his college as long as he got into an Ivy League school, because he was going to be a millionaire, because they were so wealthy that it was going to end up to him, but he had to like groom himself to be rich people and know rich people. Is that crazy or what?
And then nothing.
And yeah, so they had promised that, and he got into George Washington University, $62,000 a year. And the money that they have is, let's just say, not always the legal way. And they have a lot of cash. So they were going to pay off a $30,000 loan that we put in my husband's name for my parents paid the first half of the loan they gave him when he was younger. And him and his parents and I, we filled out that form together when they were over during that weekend. And then they accused me of forging the papers and tried to get out of that $30,000 too. And not to mention the rest of his life of not supporting or ever talking to him again. So they ended up, the judge gave him the loan, which was great. But of course, never talking to my kid again. He was so confused, you know, he didn't even have home to come home to. And here he was from, you know, it's not exactly country here in Colorado, but, you know, it's not Washington, D.C. So he was going through a transition and failed a couple classes and wanted to drop out, all because of them. But now I know that it's actually a blessing that they didn't talk to him again. It was like what we call no contact in the narcissist world. It's the only way for you to regain your mind is to not talk to them anymore. So it was by default, and he was stronger afterwards. So, again, how can you turn off love of a kid?
Yeah, that is a very good question.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's the life of the narcissist. And you know, there's patterns that they go through, and there's stages. It's called idealize, devalue, and discard. And
Yes.
those things like love bombing and all that are in the, you know, idealization stage, and you're perfect, you're my soulmate. And then they go to sort of like gently, like this guy would be, you know, I can't see you for a week. I'm going to be here. Or, you know, I'm traveling, and, you know, my kid's going back to his mom, so I won't see you. But those were all lies because the other girl was just here. So, you know, that's kind of how that works.
So, yeah.
You.
So, Tracy.
Yeah.
This has been a remarkable story that you're sharing with us in your personal experience. Yes, or a movie.
In a lifetime.
Yes, I'm just, wow. So I know our listeners appreciate this, and this has got to be a hard story to tell at times. I mean, you've been through so much. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is I know you have so much more to share because we haven't even begun with what you've done since then. And I don't want our listeners to miss this. So I think what we'll do is, just so our listeners know, they're going to have to come back next week and hear part 2.
Ooh, part
yes.
2. What made Tracy the narcissist expert besides being a victim?
That's what we want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So Tracy, we will see you next week.
All right. Perfect.